Hello and welcome to another Doctor Who review. In today's Doctor Who review we're looking at audio, but not Big Finish. Today we're looking at the newly released BBC Audio Men of War, featuring the first Doctor, Steven Taylor and Sara Kingdom, which is incredibly nice. But we're getting more stories featuring Sara Kingdom, because obviously Sara Kingdom only featured in the Daleks Master Plan, and I think Big Finish did a wonderful job sort of expanding Sara Kingdom, sort of the aftermath of the Daleks Master Plan with the Sara Kingdom trilogy and the little extra stories we've got in the early adventures like the Sontarans. Fantastic. So yeah, I'm always excited when we get some stories of Sara Kingdom, because there's something quite nice about having a little bit more Sara Kingdom in there, because obviously the TARDIS is quite cantankerous, so the Daleks Master Plan wouldn't have been this whole epic story. You know, the TARDIS would have veered off having little mini adventures. I think that's quite nice. That's enough praising that. So this is part of a new trilogy. All three stories are going to be penned by Justin Richards. So we've got this one, Men of War, out now obviously, and we've got one out in July with the third Doctor called The Horrors of War with Joe Grant, which is exciting because it's the third Doctor, so naturally gonna love it. Then we've got one in September, the last one with the sixth Doctor and Mel, so that's incredibly exciting, called The Fountains of War. I'm not exactly sure how these three stories are going to link, because obviously this is literally, you know, 1/3 of the trilogy. I presume they're all going to link in one factor, that they are all set around the First World War. I think this is probably BBC Audio's way of marking the centenary of the end of the First World War, so that's quite nice, and I think that's quite a nice way of doing it and learning about history by doing it with Doctor Who. It's brilliant. What other things can BBC Audio do what involves the First World War without creating a whole original thing? Why not use an existing highly popular thing and use Doctor Who? So it's a brilliant way of utilising Doctor Who, I think. So yeah, without further ado, let's look at the presentation for this release, because literally I have heard nothing about this release. It's very much slipped under the radar in terms of audios, because Big Finish, they normally hype up things, you know, they normally go, oh, this is coming out, but here's a trailer. This had none of a trailer. I didn't read the synopsis. So I literally went in blind listening to this, and that was quite fun and exciting to experience something knowing absolutely nothing about the story and just going in cold turkey. It was quite fun doing it that way. I think I might do that again. So without further ado, let's look at the presentation for Men. So for the cover art, we have an original audio adventure read by Peter Purves. We've got the first Doctor there, the Steven, Sara and explosion. Got some hands sinking into no man's land and a very creepy World War I soldier, and we've got the Doctor Who logo, some barbed wire, Men of War by Justin Richards, the spine, and the back of the CD there with the bio for the story, so do feel free to pause if you want to know more about the story. And the total running time for this adventure is 65 Taking minutes. A look at inside the little leaflet, we get the cast and credits for this release, and we have advertisement for other BBC audios that are available, and we have some releases what have just been released. So we've got the new BBC Audio of the fourth Doctor, which I would like to get, the new Target novelisation readings, the Doctor Who annuals, and some Target novelisation readings again for the classic series, so that's quite nice. And that's a little leaflet. And there we have the disc for this release. So I best cover the format for this release. So this release is very much in the style of a short trip, but told within a companion chronicle format in terms of duration, with it being a 1 hour long story. Now the story is very much being told from the perspective of a World War I soldier called Stedman, and this allows for some superb characterisations as we experience the TARDIS crew via his perception. The descriptions you get of the characters are super, and I think Justin Richards did a brilliant job crafting that character, and I will talk more about in detail when I get onto characters, and I'll talk about him later. So what do I actually think of this audio? Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. If you know Justin Richards, you know that he delivers a good solid story, but I feel just absolutely knocks this one out of the park. It's just incredible. I found it so immersive with him capturing the true horrors of the First World War, and utilises the setting to his advantage, with the story itself being a story of two halves, with one point being about missing soldiers being pulled underneath the mud, which I think is a clever way of utilising no man's land, and it's just really horrific and gruesome. And the way Justin Richards describes, you know, people being pulled down with sort of mud spewing out of their mouths and eyes, it's just really creepy stuff. So that's introduced in the pre-title sequence, which just hooks you right in. So I think that's a real strong start to the story. And the other major plot point is about time, with the Battle of the Somme, what should have happened a month ago, and it hasn't happened yet. So it's very much so, time is very much the focus of the first half of the story, and kind of the running theme of this story, with time being altered. So the missing soldiers, that's very much put on the back burner, but it's still there. It's just simmering on in the background, really. Now, the story may come across a bit of a slow burner, but you sort of forget about that because Justin Richards has created such a rich characters and environments. You'll just sort of forget about that, but you just focus on how immersive this world is, what he's created. And also, this story being set around the Daleks' master plan, we do get a few nods to this with the Doctor examining the Vitranium core, you know, REVEIW, and it also even helps to stop the flow of the story. And how the story wraps itself up is pretty heavy in the sense that it does go full scientific mode with the sort of explanation of the cause of events. So I did find myself lose it a little bit. I did find myself drift away from that just a tiny bit, but I still enjoyed what the story was trying to do. And also the conclusion of this story, the conclusion for this story really does set up the third Doctor adventure nicely, and also vividly recreates the horrors of trench warfare and conflict brilliantly. So yeah, brilliant story. Moving on to characters now, I think Peter Purves just does a wonderful job bringing all these characters to life. So let's start off with the Doctor. Now, Justin Richards has captured the first Doctor brilliantly, along with Peter Purves' performance. It just blends so well together. If you followed my channel for a while, you'll know my favourite First Doctor companion chronicles are with Stephen, because I think Peter Purves just does a cracking job bringing the First Doctor to life with the little mannerisms of Hartnell's speech. He just does a brilliant job. So the First Doctor is very concerned about the course of time. So he's very forceful to get things back and running as they should. So he's quite forceful and commanding to a general to start the offensive of the Somme. So we do have some real powerful moments throughout this release, featuring the First Doctor and some great little speeches. And I just love how the First Doctor's introduced sort of the TARDIS and the trench, and the First Doctor's sat in a deck chair, sort of examining the Vitranium core. I just think that's a nice little introduction to the First Doctor within this story. Stephen, now he doesn't get an awful lot to do in the first half of the story, but the second half we do get to see him being very protective and concerned and impatient. And we do get a bit of the action man side of him, and we do see him and Sarah take on these roles as medics. So moving on to Sara Kingdom now, I think that this is a beautiful story for Sara Kingdom, because I just think she fits that environment of World War I superbly, because she has some great interactions between her and Stedman, when sort of Stedman's talking about, you know, soldiers being cracked or damaged. So we have some nice moments when sort of Sarah talks about the moment where she sort of cracked and sort of broke, I guess, with her talking about her brother Brett, which is quite nice. A nice little bit of character development further on from the Daleks' master plan. So that's rather nice. Like I said, nice scenes between her and Stedman, and we do see her using her Marine Space Corps skills, which is nice. And it's quite nice because she's from the future. She has to sort of have some sort of Earth technology explained, so like the car has to be explained to her. So yeah, it's just a great story for Sarah, I think. Moving on to Stedman now, just a brilliant character, and in a way very much the main character of the story, as we see the story through his eyes. He's just very well characterised, with him being haunted by past events in the war, with him breaking a promise and sort of struggle to confront people in authority, because he knows what will happen to him if he does confront people, because I think, oh, he's mad, send him to the loony bin and kill him. So he's very sort of a very innocent character, and very troubled and haunted by things. So you kind of think that he's probably got a little bit of shell shock in him. Just a very good character, and just, yeah, a very nice character, a great addition, very nice, well-rounded character within this story. So what are my concluding thoughts on Men of War? Well, I really enjoyed it. I think Justin Richards did such a wonderful job creating this very immersive story. I found myself just so engrossed listening to this. And like I said, the story does kind of come across a bit of a slow burner at times, but it is just brilliant, because I just think the environment Justin Richards creates and the characters are so well fleshed out and brought to life within this release, and Peter Purves' performance is brilliant as ever. I just think he's a brilliant audiobook reader, and I found this audio very refreshing, because it's been a while since I listened to an audiobook, so it's quite refreshing just to listen to this audiobook, because obviously audiobooks, everything's given to you, the sort of added narration. I think the added narration really helps aid this story, create the atmosphere, because the atmosphere of this story I really like, because the atmosphere in this story is very ominous, and I really like that. And it's a great little episode just to fit in between the Daleks' master plan, just the way how the Vitranium core fits within this release. And it's a story, it's a very nice standalone story, but it's also a very good story sort of setting up this whole story arc for the next two releases, because it does set up the third Doctor story brilliantly. And I think this was a real credit to show how much I enjoyed this story, because normally when I get to the writing stage of my reviews, when I sit down and think, okay, how am I going to start this review? What point am I going to start this review at? So when I sat down to start writing this review, I literally just started typing. I literally just automatically started typing and just went in autopilot. And I think that's a real credit to Justin Richards and how much this story spoke to me, how I just automatically started typing this review. So I think that's just brilliant, how much of a good story it is. Because it's quite rare for me to say, look, I literally just went in autopilot and started writing this review. I just found it so brilliant. It's just a wonderful story. But my only nitpick I really have is sort of towards the latter half of the story with sort of the explanation. It does get a very scientific and very scientific gobbledygook, I guess you could say. And I did find myself lose it a little bit, but nothing major. I still enjoyed what the story was doing. I think, you know, I just still enjoyed it overall. I think that it's brilliant. So overall I'm going to give this story a 9 out of 10. It's a great start. It's a very good start to this trilogy, and like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised by Justin Richards, because like I said, Justin Richards is a good writer. You know, you can always rely on a good sturdy story by him, but I feel like he really upped his game with this and just knocked it out of the park. It's just a superb audio release, and I'm very excited to see where this trilogy goes next, obviously because it's the Third Doctor, and I think that this story sets up the Third Doctor story brilliantly, and I'm incredibly excited to see where it goes. So thank you very much for watching this video. So Men of War scores a 9 out of 10, a brilliant audio, and definitely worth checking out. It's a very good First Doctor adventure, and if you're a fan of the Daleks Master Plan, it's a nice little episode to slot in between them, because it is a great addition to the Daleks Master Plan story. So yeah, like I said, a very good story. Highly recommend this one, and I'll see you in my next video, whatever that'll be. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. The next video will probably be a review of Unit Cyber Reality, so I'll see you in that review. So thank you very much, and bye bye.